Hi everyone, and welcome to the event titled Financial Technology and Digital Solutions, Advancing Women's Entrepreneurship in the Face of COVID-19, a side event of the 2021 Asia Pacific Forum on Sustainable Development. This event is co-hosted by the United Nations Capital Development Fund, or UNCDF, and the UN Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific, UNESCAP. Thank you everyone for joining today. Before we start, a quick mention in preparation for the Q&A part of the session to please type in your questions in the chat during the speaker discussion, and we will take a few of your questions towards the end in the Q&A. Without further ado, I will give the floor to my colleague, Ms. Maria Perdomo, Regional Manager of the Digital Hub for Asia at UNCDF, to introduce the session. Thank you, and the floor is yours, Maria.
Thank you very much, Andreas, for this introduction. So my name is Maria Perdomo, and I am the Regional Manager of UNCDF's Inclusive Digital Economies Practice Area for Asia. So let's go to the next slide. 3 billion. You may be wondering why this woman choose to open this event with just one number. Well, in 2019, Bangladesh's e-commerce market was about $1.6 billion. And it was expected that the market's growth it was going to be 3 million by 2023. However, due to COVID-19 and the explosion of digital economies, the market just hit that target of 3 billion. So the Bangladesh e-commerce market today is valued at $3 billion. That's huge. And the situation is not different in other countries in the region. I was recently on a call with the Nepal Rasta Bank, and they were mentioning that there was an increase of 300% of digital payments only during the past 3 months. And so digital is all over the region right now. There's a digital wave going around the region. And with that, there's a lot of opportunities, but also a lot of challenges. Let's go to the next one, please. In terms of opportunities for savings, we all know that digital finance presents tremendous opportunities to make sure people like you and me, and in most particular, those in the last mile, are able to save in a safe place, to put their money, to mobilize their savings. We also know that when digitizing small enterprises and their finances, we're creating a digital finance footprint that can then be used for those micro businesses to access more capital and grow their businesses. We know also that with the experience of COVID-19, that digital is key to make sure young people can stay in school. So facilitating transitions from school to work. And today, we're going to hear about how digital innovations are key to help us advance women's economic empowerment and access to finance for farmers, in particular women. Next slide, please. We also know that all these opportunities come with tremendous challenges. And some of these challenges are ones that SKAP and UNCDF, together with their partners at the country and regional level, are trying to address. So at the policy level, working together with regulators and with policymakers to really make sure that those policies and their regulatory environment is really pro-women, is really pro-youth, and it's really integrating and including in the digital economy those who are most left behind. At the digital payment ecosystem, we're working to make sure that the economy has the basic rails so that digital payments can happen. And if digital payments can happen, there's a whole range of solutions, of digital solutions that can be built thanks to that. At the inclusive innovation, we need to make sure that those innovating actually have access to the right technology, that have access to the right financial instruments, either grants, loans, guarantees, so that they can actually able to innovate. We also need to make sure that those innovations are client-centric, and so that when we are talking about digital for women, we are actually closing that digital divide, for example. And last but not least, we're working together to make sure that women, farmers, young people have actually the right knowledge, skills, and attitudes to access and use the innovations that are being produced in our countries. With that, today, please let's go to the next one. I have the pleasure to open this event where you will hear from some of the partners that SKAP and UNCDF is supporting. We're gonna hear innovations from SKYEYE, iFarmer, and Shinvest, and you're also gonna hear from the Bank of Bangladesh. I thank you for your participation and for joining forces with SKAP and UNCDF to support digital transformation and increase resilience and economic inclusion in Asia and the Pacific. The floor is yours, Jonathan, please.
Thank you very much, Maria, for that very comprehensive overview and setting the scene as well. Thank you very much. My name is Jonathan Wong. I'm the Chief of Technology and Innovation at United Nations SKAP, and I'm your moderator for today. Just to re-emphasize a few of Maria's points, I mean, we all know this, that the past year has been incredibly difficult. No question. It's probably a massive understatement, quite frankly. But it's been particularly difficult for entrepreneurs and even more so for women entrepreneurs, with the pandemic causing significant disruption to both businesses and economies. And there have been very few bright spots, quite frankly. However, one positive, as Maria mentioned, has been this accelerated digital transformation that has happened within economies, within societies, and within governments as well. And indeed, financial technologies and digital solutions have really supported businesses to continue to operate and trade during the pandemic. I mean, you'll hear today, many of the companies who are digitally enabled have fared much better. I mean, that's a really obvious point. And we'll hear from them today. SKAP and UNCDF, through our joint work, we've actually seen this firsthand. And today, we are joined by private sector fintech partners and a regulator who we've been working with over this quite traumatic year, who against all odds really, have really implemented digital solutions, financial measures, and emergent support initiatives to support MSMEs, particularly women MSMEs, whose businesses have been disproportionately affected. And before we kick off, let me briefly introduce our speakers, and I will be brief so we can hear more from them and less from me. So let me start by introducing Ashraf, who's a general manager at Bangladesh Bank, who is our regulator on the panel today. We have Fahad Ifaz, CEO and co-founder of iFarmer in Bangladesh. We have Celia Boyd, co-founder and director of She Investments in Cambodia, and Sam Salih, chairman and co-founder of SKYEYE in Samoa. Firstly, many thanks to you all for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us today and to share your quite incredible work, quite frankly, and very innovative work as well. As Andreas mentioned, before we hear from our speakers, do feel free to post your questions in the chat because we will have time for some Q&A and a bit more dialogue later on during this event. So without further ado, let's crack on. Let's first hear from Ashraf on initiatives Bangladesh Bank have deployed throughout the pandemic to support MSMEs. Ashraf, over to you. And I think we need the next slide, if I'm correct now. Thank you.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me?
We hear you very well.
Okay, thank you. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak on about the regulatory initiatives the Central Bank of Bangladesh Bank has taken on during the COVID-19 pandemic. So before I outline and speak about the Bangladesh Bank initiative, so let me make it clear that currently I am not working in the department that directly regulates or works on these issues. I mean the CMSME and COVID-19 policy action department. I am in the central bank currently working in the printing money. Printing corporation currently. However, I have been involved in the MSME financial inclusion, and lately I have recently came back from UNCDF after serving 4 years in the UNCDF Bangladesh operation in the digital financial services space. So I will be speaking about the initiatives Bangladesh Bank have taken during the pandemic to basically stabilize the economy as well as building it better so that the beyond COVID-19 or once the pandemic is over, the economy can bounce back with full resilience and can work to achieve the digital economy goal of the government through its Digital Bangladesh. So before basically detailing the steps taken by the government of Bangladesh Bank as well as the government Bangladesh Bank, I would say that in terms of addressing the COVID-19 pandemic damage caused to various sectors, including the CMSME sector, government and the Bangladesh Bank has undertaken, very pragmatic, timely, and comprehensive initiative to address the damage done by the COVID-19 pandemic. Under the leadership of our Honorable Prime Minister, the leadership of the Bangladesh Bank has taken various initiatives, including stabilizing the liquidity situation in the banking sector, so that the banks and financial institutions are well placed to offer credit to the MSMEs in the country who basically as a sector, they have been hard hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. So Bangladesh Bank has taken, I would say, different kinds of policy measures and policy initiatives. Some of those are basically, I would say, indirect, which basically help the banking sector, the financial sector, to basically capacitate them to offer financial services to the hard hit CMSME sector. And some other initiatives that have been undertaken by the central bank is directly supporting the CMSME through introduction of various investment and loan loan funds. So first of all, BB has taken all these initiatives with the goal that the money market were liquid and without losing the price stability. So this is a dual objective Bangladesh Bank is trying to achieve. While they want to keep the money market liquid, but without losing the price stability. So to achieve that, Bangladesh Bank has already reduced the cash reserve ratio from the pre-COVID 5.5 to 4%, and reduced the repo interest rate from 5.25 to 4.75%. And also introduced 360 days repo window and increased the advance deposit ratio from the pre-COVID 85% to 87%. And the outcome of these actions basically is that the financial market is liquid than any other time. And the weighted average call money rate in the financial sector is 2.66% in the during the COVID period. So then basically also Bangladesh Bank has taken other prudential regulatory initiatives like reducing the provision requirements for MSME loans so that the cost of fund for the banks offering loans to the MSMEs get reduced. And also they have introduced 11 stimulus and refinancing schemes amounting basically USD 10.9 billion US dollars, prioritizing the MSME sector, agriculture sector, and the specifically for the marginal segment of the population, and to keep the productive sectors moving forward. BB contributed 1.18 billion US dollar, which basically was 50% of the total package of 2.35 billion as a refinance to the working capital facility for specifically for the cottage, micro, and small enterprise sector. And also this 2.35 billion package is a revolving loan for 3 years, so which will basically amount to 7.05 billion US dollar impact in the next 3 years. Moreover, BB also launched 7 other refinance schemes targeting the MSME sector, which include US dollar 588 million working capital loans to agriculture sector, 353 million US dollar for low income professional, farmer, and micro enterprises, 75.5 million US dollar for small enterprises, 80.5 million US dollar for agro-based product, and 117 million US dollar scheme to lending for fishing and livestock sector through commercial banks. So thirdly, BB took a wide range of prudential measures, as we said, that to enhance the increased profitability, stability, and lending capacity of the commercial bank. BB put lending rate cap at 9% to achieve robust private sector credit growth, including MSME sector credit growth. Earlier, the MSME borrower had to pay higher interest rate. Now they are paying 9%. But in effect, BB is also offering interest rate subsidy to the commercial bank. So effective interest rate is only 4% for the end borrower. That means the cottage, micro, and small enterprises finally basically pays only 4% to the bank. Moreover, Bangladesh Bank has taken necessary action to disburse 20 billion as interest subsidy to the commercial bank. And also loan classification system has been eased for the COVID-19. And from the very beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, the central bank has given a moratorium on payment of the existing loans, so that all the borrowers can basically stay on afloat in the business. And so I would say with this, basically, BB has taken comprehensive regulatory and monetary and fiscal measures to support the resilience of the MSME sector, as well as building it better beyond COVID-19 pandemic. So I would say that in short, these are some of the specific BB measures for MSME sector. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ashraf, for that very comprehensive overview of BB's response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Now let's hear from our private sector partners on the solutions that they are currently developing for women entrepreneurs, and how are they repositioned in the face of COVID-19. And maybe first, let me turn to Fahad from iPharma for some of his insights. Over to you, Fahad. And next slide, I think again.
So thank you, Jonathan, and thank you, UNESCAPE and UNCDF for inviting me in this webinar. Right, so just a little bit of intro about what iFarmer does. So iFarmer is basically an agri-tech startup that helps farmers with access to finance, access to high quality inputs and advisory services, and lastly, helps them to sell their produce directly to buyers. And just before the pandemic, we were mostly focusing on facilitating finance for the smallholder farmers and inputs as well. But when the pandemic hit, we figured out that the whole supply chain is kind of disrupted, because if you are aware about how the agri-produce supply chain runs in a country like Bangladesh, there are like 5-6 layers of middlemen between the farmer and the end consumer. So during the pandemic, some of these intermediaries were not able to operate, and that kind of disrupted the whole supply chain mechanism. So iFarmer decided to kind of get into the supply chain business as well, where we were basically aggregating farm produce and then supplying to the buyers. And that kind of instigated a key focus on working with women farmers. And the reason is, and this is a very interesting insight that we developed, was that when we work with women farmers, we tend to get like better produce, because before we were just facilitating finance and inputs and not really caring about the quality of the inputs, because we were not really selling the inputs. But once we got into that business, aggregating the produce and selling it to the buyers, now we wanted really good quality produce. And we figured out it's the women farmers who are basically producing the better quality, agriculture produce, whether it's livestock or vegetables or fruits. And one of the reasons we tried to dig deep on this, and one of the reasons that we found out that during the whole production session, iFarmer offers trainings and advisory services. We use SMS, we use phone calls. We also have an app which can be used through an assisted model or directly by the farmers. And in most cases, the women, when they receive the information, there's a high possibility that they'll apply or use that information or that knowledge in their farming practice. So that's one of the reasons that we have a core focus on women farmers. Now, one of the key challenge of reaching women farmer is there's a digital divide between men and women farmer. Men tend to have access to smartphones, a phone. On the other hand, women in rural Bangladesh does not always have access to a smartphone or internet. And we are currently working with an assistive model where women can also access the smartphone. So we have these agents called field facilitators. And we're working with women or female field facilitators who are basically kind of aggregating or organizing the women in their community. And if those women in their community, they're interested in iFarmer services, they want to learn something about livestock farming, or they have a problem that they want to pose, they can basically reach out to that iFarmer female agent who has an app where everything gets registered, starting from onboarding, any kind of solutions and stuff like that. We also have a phone, a toll-free phone number where anyone can call and get access to advisory services as well. So yeah, I mean, I think before pandemic, we had a focus. We did not really have a core focus on women. It was like we saw there were some women farmers coming in working with us. But right after the pandemic, when we started the supply chain business, we figured out that, well, women are and can play a very important role for us. And we can also be supporting them in terms of scaling up their ability to produce more through finance, input, advisory, and help them to access the market better. So yeah, Jonathan, back to you.
Thank you very much, Fahad, for the overview there. Let's now turn to Celia, who's the co-founder and director of She Investments in Cambodia, to tell us about her innovation. Over to you, Celia.
Hi, everyone. I hope you can hear me okay. Thank you so much for having me. So to briefly introduce She, we are a social enterprise based in Phnom Penh, Cambodia, that was launched in 2015 with Cambodia's first business incubator program that was designed specifically for Khmer women. So we work with women, micro to small entrepreneurs by designing and delivering business incubators, accelerators, and other support structures and resources to enable them to scale and enter the SME sector. So we work with only women because in Cambodia, women are running the majority of enterprises, around 61% already, but they've remained stuck in the informal and micro-sized sector. So we focus on helping them to scale up and bridge that gender gap in the SME sector. So the key purpose of our work is to demonstrate that although women are concentrated in this micro and informal economy, they nonetheless pose a massive opportunity for economic growth. And the way that we aim to demonstrate this through our work is measuring the economic impact and growth that is created by these very, very tiny women-led businesses. So examples include we've had around over 300 women graduate from incubators, accelerators so far, and those 300 women have gone on to create over 500 new jobs and increased their collective reported monthly revenue by over $730,000 every month. So obviously when COVID-19 hit last year, this was extremely disruptive for all businesses. And in Cambodia, women were very seriously impacted by this because most of their businesses are more vulnerable because they are they're more informal, they're more easily disrupted by this kind of change, and they're not able to adapt quite as quickly to times of crisis. Some reasons of which being a lack of financial literacy and a lack of quite a large gender gap in digital literacy. So this became really apparent when we could no longer we suddenly couldn't reach many of the women we were working with through our in-person training and different events anymore. So at the same time, we had begun working on this new project called KOTRA RIEL app, which means to record money in Khmer. And this was an idea that came from our Cambodian co-founder who had directly been working with these women in our network for years and constantly hearing from them about their frustrations, that there wasn't a tool that was designed especially for them. So specifically for micro-sized, cash-based, informal businesses that was in their own language and was user-friendly and easy for them to understand. So although COVID wasn't the reason we started this project, it quickly became even more important because it became unclear as to how much we'd be able to continue reaching women in person, and they really needed this digital literacy training and financial literacy training. So it became all the more important for us to deliver. So the Khmer language app enables businesses to track income, expenses, cash flow and inventory, and generate basic reports to access financial capital. So it's a very, very new project. It was just launched last month and we've got almost 300 active users to date. So this year we're going to be focusing on scaling up the app, scaling up usage of the app alongside COVID responsive programs such as digital literacy and financial literacy training across provinces of Cambodia.
Great. Thank you very much, Celia. And it's so nice to see KOTRA RIEL off to a good start. I see the number of users there already. So yeah, that's a really good start. And I'm glad to see it's kind of gaining traction and long may it continue. Let me next turn to Sam, chairperson and co-founder of SKYEYE in Samoa, to tell us a bit more about his quite groundbreaking work in Samoa, actually, quite frankly. So let me hand over to you, Sam.
Thank you, Jonathan. So SKYEYE is a geospatial technology company family founded in Samoa, but we recently getting into creating software for in terms of digital transformation. We see that a lot of our people, the grassroots people, are being left behind in terms of the digital economy. So that's where we created the Maua app. But to specifically address the question that was put to us, what was our response in terms of the COVID lockdown? So in Samoa, like all other countries, in March 2020, the government locked down pretty much the whole country. All markets were closed, and it impacted a lot of the farmers, especially women vendors. So, and one of the really great stakeholders or people, organizations that work with women in Samoa is the Women in Business Development Incorporated, and they have a number of farmers under their umbrella that are certified organic. And once every month, they do a organic night market that's very popular, and over 80 farmers come and sell their produce around that market. But they were also affected when everything closed down. So they weren't able to have their market in April. And then SKYEYE and the Maua app worked with Women in Business, and we digitized their market. So they were able to work with all their farmers and upload all their products, as well as their the information of their products that they want to sell at a particular day of the month, which is usually the last week of the month. And then people are able to buy these products online, and so it's pre-sold as well. So on May 2020, we organized the first with the virtual organic market, and up to today, we've had 7 of these virtual markets. 2 of them got canceled because of natural disasters, but so it's open to all the farmers, and so it's all handicrafts, seafood, all the delicacies that the Samoans enjoy with our local traditional food. And we've also been able to open up payments from overseas. So we have already delivered products that are paid from overseas, but delivered locally to families, as in Samoa, family is quite important. And no matter how far they travel, they are always looking at ways to take care of their families in Samoa. So the numbers there are quite small in terms of the global things, but for Samoa, which is a tiny island, 200,000 people, so that amount of money that they would not have been able to receive for the farmers because everything was locked down during the pandemic. So that's the poster of the virtual market that we are doing, and we're delivering this Friday. And yeah, if you want to have a look at what the produce are available, there's a QR code there that you can scan, and then look at all the products available from the WIPD virtual market.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sam. And thank you all for giving an overview of your incredibly interesting work. Let's now move on to some kind of more specific questions now. And maybe I tend to kind of Ashraf first. Bangladesh Bank has launched, as you mentioned, these special loan facilities and investment facilities to support sectors affected by the pandemic. What should regulators consider when developing such facilities? Because they are not without their risk, shall we say. And what considerations will be needed in the longer term post-pandemic? So over to you. I know that's quite a heavy question, but over to you. Sorry, you're muted, Ashraf.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity again. Yes, the The question is, very pertinent, because it is much more important to implement those regulatory, either fiscal or monetary measures that has been declared. It is more important to implement than to basically, declaring the initiative or issuing the circulars. So implementation before going for any regulatory instructions to the financial sector, or for the target entrepreneurs or general public, whoever may be the target, the central bank needs to study the demand or nature of demand, and also the final impact of these regulatory initiatives the central banking is taking up. Sometimes if one regulatory initiative can basically destabilize the other areas of the financial sector, so central bank, before designing any or introducing any regulatory initiative, they should discuss with the stakeholders. It can be the entrepreneurs they are targeting for, offering credit lines, offering other measures, and also with the market participants. The central bank should sit with the stakeholders, discuss with them what regulatory measures they are going to introduce, and try to listen to the stakeholders' concern that whether these regulatory initiatives will be helpful for the stakeholders, the intended beneficiaries, or this will basically create more hassle for the beneficiaries. So this is number one. Number two, sometimes we do not, while introducing any regulatory instruction measures for the financial sector, or whatever the case may be, we might not look into the longer term impact of those regulatory measures. Maybe we are driven by short term view of managing or addressing a very short term issue at hand. So we should not basically forget the long term impact of the regulatory measures or initiative we are taking. So this is the second thing. Third thing, I would say that the transmission mechanism we need to examine, that the regulatory instruction, whether these regulatory measures or the instruction we are introducing, do we have the transmission mechanism in place, or we need some tweaking in the transmission mechanism of the regulatory instruction we are offering. Fourth, I would say that long-term vision for introducing any regulatory initiative, that not only the regulatory measures we are offering right now is not only addressing the immediate impact of the COVID-19 impact. Yes, this is one of the objective of the regulatory measures introduced by the central bank or the fiscal authority, whatever it may be, but they should also look into the long-term impact. Whether this will only address the immediate impact the COVID-19 pandemic has brought to the life of the intended beneficiaries, or it will also support the intended beneficiaries for building it better, not only being resilient during the pandemic, but beyond pandemic, will they be able to build back better, come back with more targeted activities, so that the economy will not only remain resilient, but it will also grow beyond pandemic with full force, with the focused growth rate. So these are some of the concerns regulators. I mean, basically, I would say in Bangladesh, Bangladesh Bank and the Fiscal Authority has taken these five factors into consideration while designing the regulatory initiatives in Bangladesh. Thank you
very much. Thank you very much, Ashra. Let's now turn to Fahad. And iFarm was able to rapidly adapt during the pandemic and even establish an entire new supply chain in the space of a week, which is quite incredible and is a credit to you and the team, really. Can you tell us more about how you did that and what challenges you faced?
Right. So thank you again, Jonathan. Right. So as I said that we had to act because when the pandemic started, we figured out that farmers are not being able to sell their produce. So it took us like 7 to 10 days to just launch this whole supply chain business model. One of the key challenge was to be able to kind of connect the dots in terms of sourcing, sorting, grading, and then being able to transport, because again, we were in the middle of a lockdown. There was restrictions in mobility. There was all sorts of restrictions during that time. But on the other hand, there was a huge demand. As it was said in at the beginning, that the e-commerce or the online digital commerce boom during pandemic was huge in Bangladesh, and one of the key focus was also on groceries and fresh produce. People who were usually going to the wet market suddenly shifted to like ordering online. Now these online sellers, they were struggling because they don't really have, that's not their business in terms of sourcing the fresh produce directly from the farmers. And that's where we came in. So there was demand on both sides. There's demand from the farmers to be able to sell their produce. There's demand from these online groceries to be able to source their produce. And we kind of found ourselves in the middle, and we had to act very quickly. And one of the key things that we did was building partnerships, because we didn't have logistics, we didn't have collection centers, we didn't even know where to store the produce. So we went on. It took us like about 5-7 days just to build those partnerships. So one example is one of the key challenge when you're dealing with fresh produce is the transportation of it, right? So we reached out to one of the other startups in Bangladesh that works in the transport business that's called Truck Like This. So we just asked them that, well, can you give us trucks that are coming from the northern part of the country or the southern part of the country where they can just bring the produce to Dhaka. And they could immediately come back and say, well, yes, we have got a few trucks that are coming back on these days. Can you arrange your shipment accordingly? And I said, yeah, okay. Then we reached out to another company and said, well, can you give us your warehouse or distribution centers where we can store the produce for a day or two before we start distributing them? And they were more than happy, because they were also kind of using that inventory to sell to their customers as well. So I think during pandemic, one of the key learning for us is that you need to move fast. And to move fast, you might not have all the resources. As a startup, it's much more difficult to get all the resources. So you need to be able to build those partnerships very quickly and get things moving. So that's how just by leveraging those partnerships, we were able to launch a supply chain business in 7 days. Yeah,
that's incredible. Thank you very much, Baha. Let's now turn to Celia and to dig a bit deeper on KOTRA app, which was recently launched. What lessons can you share regarding onboarding of new users, and particularly women, to use digital tools, given everything you were saying earlier around issues around digital and financial literacy? And what successes have you had, and what are you still struggling with as well? And it'll be for the group and all of us to try and help you however we can. So over to you, Celia.
Sure, thank you. So I suppose in terms of lessons of onboarding new users, one thing to make very clear is that we're not a tech company. We're not a fintech company. We have no idea what we're doing when it comes to this stuff. So this is a very, very new area for us, starting a tech project. And I think we knew that going in, but I don't think we really knew what we were getting ourselves into. So I think for us, a really key lesson has been the importance of the team that you have. And we've been very lucky. We've had a really good developer team who really understood, like, we had an idea, and we knew the target market, like the customer, but they were able to work with us to turn an idea into something usable, which is a real skill, because we had really no idea when it came to the back end of things and how that would work and how to articulate what we really wanted to them. I think, and the diversity of the project team is really important. So we had a very, very different skill set on the team. We had a really amazing qualified accountant based in Australia. We have a project team of majority Khmer women, and both as project team members, but also as key stakeholders, giving us kind of constant user testing and feedback. So always keeping in mind, like, who you are creating this product for, and not just assuming that just because you want to create an app, that's cool and sexy and whatever, but like, do they actually want that, and they're going to be able to use it? And really making sure that you keep those key stakeholders at the center of what you're doing, I think, has been our key lesson. And then following on from that, the context within which you're working. So in terms of onboarding people onto an app, again, had never done this before. So we have to really contextualize, like, we're working in an environment with extremely low digital literacy. And I can see some questions in the Zoom chat, which I will respond to about that as well. But very low digital literacy rates. We have to incorporate training. We have to understand the channels through which we can reach our audience, particularly if we can't do it in person. So, for example, when we see a real uptake in onboarding users is when we do Facebook Live sessions on just telling people how to do it. And again, always using Khmer language, always using Khmer female role models, always really understanding who we're marketing to, and designing something that is for them and communicating it in the appropriate way. And I suppose our ongoing challenges are really similar. Again, digital literacy levels and COVID. I mean, one thing I think is important for us is, we support entrepreneurs, but we are also entrepreneurs. We're private sector, and so we as a business, we also struggle with all of the challenges that COVID brings. So in trying to support a network of entrepreneurs to essentially survive this pandemic and rebuild, we also have those challenges. And so in the background, we're also kind of constantly reevaluating how we're operating, our own survival, and how we're going to kind of strategically move forwards and rebuild well. And continue on throughout whatever comes next. So I think that's one kind of key challenge, is like we may be private sector partners, we may be supporting a lot of businesses, but yeah, we're also struggling with those same challenges.
Thanks so much, Celia. We had a bit of a technical issue here, so we're trying to get Jonathan connected so he can...
Sorry, I'm back. Celia, I think you cursed us with the whole talk about not knowing anything about technology, because my system just failed me dramatically. but fortunately, I'm back now. And I know what you mean. Listen, I've been bluffing technology for years now, so it gets easier as the years go by. but you're doing a great job. Let's now turn to Sam, and again, you're working to develop the first ever payments gateway in Samoa to allow for interoperability of payments. Do you think this gateway will be transformative for Samoa? Because it certainly sounds like it. And how do you think it will impact businesses and shape businesses as they move towards a digital economy? So over to you, Sam.
Thank you, Jonathan. Yes, when you talk about e-commerce, there's no e-commerce if there's no way to make and receive payments. So it's been in discussions in Samoa for 20 odd years, But I guess one of the things that SKYEYE does is when there's no one, when it's not happening, we try and do it ourselves. So with the help from UNCDF, we were able to create Samoa's first payment gateway, and our first merchant that we integrated to it was our MOA app. And that's how we've been able to receive payments for grassroots vendors from overseas. So we get payments, we integrate it with Stripe, and that payment is then processed through our system, and the local vendors get the payment on the same day via mobile money. So we looked at ways to utilize everything that's already there and just making the link between the Stripe platform and mobile money within Samoa. So we're going to open up to all the other e-commerce platforms that is available in Samoa. And already we've had a lot of discussions with many different organizations, the government, NGOs, and a lot of already well-established business. But our biggest focus is our grassroots in trying to make sure that they are part of the digital economy, that like what I just mentioned, payment from America, someone paying for vegetables for their family, the person in the market or on the street will get that payment. So we believe very much that that's the best way to combat the global recessions that's going on, and also to be allow our grassroots to be resilient, to be able to access overseas markets, but with minimum technology know-how or digital literacy. As long as they can use an app that's similar to Facebook, that's I think it's what we are trying to strive for.
Great. Thank you very much, Sam. We'll now move on to the Q&A part, and I'm very lucky as a moderator to have a ruthlessly efficient panel, because you've gone on and answered many of the questions. But let me just kind of maybe center on a couple. Sam, let's stick with you first, actually. A question's come in saying, how do the vendors deal with local logistics, given there is not established delivery network? Do you allow people to use remittance money to trade on the platform directly from the sender side? So over to you for that question.
Thank you. Key to also for e-commerce is an addressing system. And in the Pacific, there is no addressing system. You find people's location by telling them landmarks, like go past the first church, turn right. You see the biggest mango, turn left. That's how directions are done in Samoa. So we actually developed our own addressing system. We have created a new addressing system for Samoa, well, the only addressing system for Samoa that maps every 2x2 meter of the country. And we've assigned a 9-digit code for it. And because we're in the geospatial tech area, we're able to use that and open it up to the public to be used. So so that's our first step in dealing with the logistics. And the second step is we've created a driver app that is linked to our MOA app that is similar to Uber, where we open it up to the public. As long as you have a mobile phone and a vehicle with a license, you're able to do delivery for the platform. And the platform will automatically locate the closest driver, give them everything that they need to know about the pickup, the drop-off, and everything, the cost, as well as give them the option whether they want to take it or decline, and then it goes to the next closest driver. So that's the logistics side of things.
Great. Thank you very much, Sam. Another question that's come in, and maybe I put this one to Celia, actually. What role do MFIs, microfinancial institutions, play in Asia Pacific for empowering women micro entrepreneurs? Do they hinder, help, possibility of partnership with them? I literally just read the question straight out. I hope it made sense.
That makes sense. It's a complicated question. It's a complicated answer because it's a complicated industry, and
especially in Cambodia.
Yes, exactly. And I think it's interesting. Like, I don't want to say the wrong thing. I mean, microfinance has changed the world, right? And it does so many amazing things, but it has to be done the right way. And I would say that we're actively trying to partner with MFIs, we're creating a tool that will enable women to be good clients of MFIs. The problem that we face is that I would say 99% of women that we've worked with over the past 6.5 years have been in debt from when they started with us. And they usually have multiple loans. It's never just one loan. And it's often a loan to pay off another loan to pay off another loan. So I think that microfinance is a really fantastic way, and it's going to be really important in rebuilding our economies moving forwards if it is done in the right way and if it's done in the right partnerships. And I think one of those solutions and one of those partnerships needs to be financial literacy training, because many people do not understand interest rates and repayments and planning ahead and problem solving. And so we see this when a crisis hits, all of a sudden no one can repay their loans within a week or two. And we see this because it's not just a matter of dispersing loans and expecting people to repay them. It's a matter of, do they really understand the interest rates? Do they really understand whether this investment is going to have a return for them and whether they are going to be able to repay in 6 months, in 1 year? And what if something happens? If they have a business, then it's not just a matter of can they show you that they have collateral. It's a matter of, do they understand how to forecast how much cash they have and whether they're going to be in a good position to be a good client for you. And so I think there's so many good MFIs, but there are just as many loan sharks as there are MFIs. And a lot of women that we work with, they find working with a financial institution quite intimidating. It's not to say that they're not necessarily accessible, but it's so easy to get a loan that they don't have to go to a formal financial institution. They just sit at home and wait for someone to come and knock on their door and offer them something if they need money. And so there's just as many bad options as there are good options for loans, and that lack of access to easily accessible information is a real problem, I think, and it needs to be paired with. I think that's a long-winded way of saying that partnerships, I think, are really, really important when it comes to microfinance.
Great, thank you very much, Celia. We're out of time, I'm afraid. But thank you so much to all the panel. I mean, I don't quite know how to summarize all of that, but I think some of the key takeaways I took from Ashraf, from the regulator's point of view, the importance of liquidity and stability. I think Fahad said something which is really, I mean, quite true on the ground as you're seeing it. Investing in women just makes good business sense. I think Celia, I think recognizing that technology is not the end, but the means to the end is really important. It shouldn't be led by the tech. And Sam, I think as well, just importance of recognizing the grassroots and engaging the grassroots and local communities within this digital transformation is equally important. So those are just kind of some of the key things I would take away. And just to say, I believe this will be the first of many webinars we'll have with UNCDF, and maybe in person sometime if COVID allows. And I'm sure we'll hear from all our panelists to see how their work is evolving in the future as well. So just a big thank you to all the panelists again. A huge thank you to UNCDF colleagues for partnering this event. And please do join the other APFSD events that are going on throughout the week. And thank you all for joining and being so engaging as well. So I wish you all a very good day, good evening, and good afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much as well.
Thanks all. Bye-bye. Have a good day.
Bye. Thank you, colleagues. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye now.